Amarachi's hands trembled in the darkness. The room was silent, except for her mother's soft snoring. A wooden box lay under the bed, filled with crumpled naira notes from the day's market sales. She could hear every beat of her own heart, loud like a drum in her ears. One wrong move, and she would be finished. Her fingers brushed the edge of the box, then stopped. A cough echoed from the room. Her father turned in his sleep. Amarachi froze, sweat dripping down her back. She pulled her hand away quickly and quickly tiptoed out of the room. Night after night, Amarachi lay awake on her small bed, staring at the ceiling. The night was hot, the mosquitoes hummed near her ears, but sleep refused to come. Her mind was too busy. All she could think of was the new iPhone her classmates carried around in school. Earlier that day, she had watched them take selfies in the school garden. They stood in a circle, giggling as they flipped their hair and posed. Then they burst out laughing when one of them whispered loudly, "See Amarachi with her torchlight phone. Village girl." The word stung. She smiled faintly as if she did not care, but inside she was burning. That night, lying awake, her thoughts tormented her. Why can't I have one? Why must I always be the one left out? She imagined how her life would change with an iPhone. She would finally be part of the group. No more mockery. No more feeling invisible. She would shine. But reality always crushed her dream. Her father was a struggling carpenter who earned barely enough to feed the family. Her mother sold vegetables by the roadside, coming home tired every evening. They could never afford such a luxury. Still, Amarachi's desire grew until it became an obsession. For weeks, she had sleepless nights. She tossed and turned, whispering to herself, "I must get an iPhone. I must." One evening, as she fetched water from the kitchen, she saw her mother hiding some money in a small wooden box under her bed. Her heart jumped. That money could make her dream come true. That night, she crept into the room when her mother was asleep. She tiptoed towards the box, her hands trembling. Just as she bent down, her mother coughed loudly. Amarachi froze. Her heart pounded like a drum. She slipped out quietly, her body drenched in sweat. The next night, she tried again. This time, her father shifted in his sleep and muttered something. Amarachi panicked and almost dropped the box. She fled back to her room, shaking all over. It was like that many nights. She tried and failed, each time nearly caught. But the hunger for the iPhone only grew stronger. One Saturday, she was walking back from school when she saw a small shop by the roadside. A man sat there, phones displayed in front of him. And then she saw it, the shining Apple logo. Her heart skipped. She walked closer. "How much is that iPhone?" she asked. The man looked at her with a sly smile. "For you, just 20,000 naira. Her eyes widened. That was ridiculously cheap. She knew iPhones cost hundreds of thousands. But desire blinded her judgment. That night, Amarachi could not sleep again. She lay awake thinking, 20,000, if only I could get it. By dawn, her decision was made. She crept into her mother's room one last time, opened the wooden box with trembling hands, and took the money. Her heart raced as if the walls themselves could see her crime. The next morning, she rushed to the shop and handed the man the money. He gave her the iPhone, wrapped in a small nylon bag. As she held it close to her chest, joy filled her heart. She whispered, "Now I will finally belong." But she had no idea what she had just bought. Amarachi's joy knew no bounds when she carried her new iPhone to school for the very first time. The moment she pulled it out of her bag, her classmates' eyes widened. "Amarachi, you got an iPhone?" Sarah gasped, her mouth open in shock. "Let me see," shouted another girl, grabbing for it. Amarachi smiled proudly as she lifted the sleek device. The shiny logo caught the sunlight streaming through the classroom window. For the first time in her life at Hopefield High School, she felt truly noticed. "Take our picture, Amarachi," one of the boys begged. "You know iPhones have the best cameras." Within minutes, they were crowding around her, posing and laughing. Even the girls who used to mock her now tried to be friendly. Amarachi's cheeks burned with happiness. At last, she was part of the group. At last, she belonged. But the joy didn't last long. That night, after everyone in the house had gone to sleep, Amarachi lay on her bed scrolling through her phone. She smiled as she looked at the photos she had taken earlier that day. Suddenly, the screen lit up on its own. Siri came alive without her touching anything. "Hello. Oninai," the voice said softly. Amarachi's hand froze. Her chest tightened. Oninai. That name. It was the pet name her late grandmother used to call her when she was little. No one else knew it. Not her friends, not her classmates, not even her teachers. Her lips trembled. Who is this?" she whispered. The voice chuckled softly, like a whisper of wind through dry leaves. "I see you. I know you. I will tell you things no one else knows." Amarachi's skin prickled with goosebumps. The next morning, she tried to convince herself it was nothing. Maybe she had pressed something by mistake. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But later that day, while she was walking to school, the iPhone buzzed. She unlocked it, and words appeared across the screen. "Your mathematics teacher will give a surprise test today. Be ready." Amarachi laughed nervously. "This is crazy," she muttered. But she studied her notes anyway. When she got to class, the teacher walked in carrying sheets of paper. "Class, surprise test," he announced. Amarachi's stomach flipped. The phone had been right. The following day, while she was chatting with her best friend Chidinma, the phone buzzed again. She glanced down. "Chidinma is spreading rumors about you. She said you smell like fish when you sweat." Amarachi's heart pounded. She looked at Chidinma, who was smiling innocently. Later that afternoon, as she passed the toilet block, she heard Chidinma giggling with two other girls. "She thinks she's somebody now just because of that iPhone," Chidinma whispered. "But she still sweats like fish. I don't know who told her she's fine." Amarachi's chest burned. The phone had told the truth again. As the days went by, the iPhone revealed more secrets. It told her which classmates were cheating in exams. It whispered who was secretly dating who. It exposed teachers who collected bribes from students. At first, Amarachi felt powerful. She was like a goddess who knew everything. She used the information to avoid trouble, to expose liars, and to gain respect. But soon, the secrets grew darker. One evening, as she scrolled through the phone, Siri whispered again, but this time, it wasn't about her friends. "Your father is hiding something from your mother." Amarachi frowned. "What do you mean?" she whispered. The phone screen flickered, and words appeared. "He has another woman. He visits her every Thursday evening." Amarachi's stomach turned. She wanted to throw the phone away, but curiosity held her hand. On Thursday, she pretended she was going to a friend's house, but instead, she followed her father. To her shock, she saw him stop at a small house at the edge of town. A woman came out, smiling warmly, and he embraced her. Tears filled Amarachi's eyes. The phone had been right. She returned home sick with confusion. She could not look at her father the same way again. A few nights later, while she was trying to sleep, the phone glowed again. "Your mother also has secrets," the voice whispered. Amarachi sat up, clutching the blanket. "No, leave my mother out of this." But the phone wouldn't stop. "She hides money from your father. She has a secret savings account. She plans to leave him if things get worse." Amarachi shook her head violently. "No. My mother would never." But the next morning, she saw her mother slip out of the house very early. Amarachi followed quietly and watched her mother enter a bank. When she came home later that day, she hid a small notebook under her bed. Amarachi waited until she left the room, then checked. Inside were bank account details. The phone had told the truth again. After that, Amarachi no longer saw her parents the same way. At dinner, she stared at them, wondering how many more secrets they were hiding. She felt like the walls of her home were collapsing. But the phone wasn't done. One night, it woke her with a sharp buzz. The screen lit up, and she saw words that made her blood run cold. "Your father once wished you were never born." Amarachi gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Tears filled her eyes. She loved her father dearly. Could it be true? The phone continued, whispering in her grandmother's voice. "He said it the night you were born, when he feared you would be another mouth to feed. He regretted it later, but the words were spoken." Amarachi broke down crying. The pain in her chest was unbearable. She pressed the phone to her chest, sobbing. "Stop it, please stop." But the phone kept whispering. "Your mother once blamed you for her suffering. She thought, if not for this child, maybe my life would be better. She cried those words into her pillow when you were 10 years old." Amarachi shook her head violently. "No, no, no." She wanted to smash the phone against the wall, but fear held her back. What if it cost her if she tried? She curled up in her bed, trembling. The next day at school, the phone grew bolder. During break time, as Amarachi sat quietly, it buzzed again. "Sarah is pregnant. She has not told anyone. She will soon faint in class." Amarachi's eyes widened. She turned to look at Sarah, who was laughing loudly with her friends. Moments later, Sarah clutched her stomach, swayed, and collapsed. The class screamed. Teachers rushed in. Amarachi sat frozen, her hands cold. The phone had predicted it again. From then on, the secrets came faster, darker, heavier. It told her which neighbor was stealing chickens at night. It told her which teacher beat his wife in secret. It even whispered about deaths that were about to happen. Each time, the secrets proved true. Amarachi could no longer look at people without suspicion. She avoided her classmates, her teachers, even her parents. Everywhere she turned, she saw lies, betrayal, and pain. Her once bright smile disappeared. Her eyes became sunken. She walked like a ghost in school, clutching the phone as if it owned her. And truly, it did. The phone had given her what she thought she wanted: power, knowledge, belonging. But now, it was tearing her apart. Amarachi no longer felt human. She felt like a prisoner of the secrets. A prisoner of her own greed. And deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Amarachi was no longer the same girl who had once dreamed of belonging. Her cheeks were hollow, her eyes heavy with shadows. She barely ate, barely spoke, barely laughed. The iPhone never left her side. At school, it buzzed in her pocket like a heartbeat. At home, it glowed at night, whispering endlessly. Even when she turned it off, it turned itself back on. She had stopped asking how. She already knew the truth: this phone was no ordinary device. It owned her. At first, it had whispered secrets about her friends and classmates. But now, the voice was everywhere. When she walked in the market with her mother, the phone hissed, "That woman selling tomatoes is sleeping with the landlord. That man counting yam tubers is in debt. The girl carrying groundnuts stole from her aunt yesterday." Amarachi would glance at them, terrified, wondering if it was all true. And each time, she discovered that it was. She could no longer look at people without hearing their hidden lives. She could no longer smile at anyone without suspicion. Her head throbbed. She pressed the phone against her chest, whispering, "Please, stop. Please, leave me alone." But it only laughed. At night, the whispers were worst. The phone no longer lay quietly on her table. Sometimes it slid across the wood on its own, glowing faintly in the darkness. Sometimes it recorded her voice, though she had not spoken, and played it back with a chilling echo. Worst of all, it began to call her name. "Oninai," it crooned in her grandmother's voice. "Oninai, do you remember the night you stole? Do you remember the tears of your mother? Do you remember the lies you told?" Amarachi would curl up on her bed, covering her ears, rocking back and forth. But the voice always cut through. She began to lose sleep. She would lie awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, while the phone glowed beside her. Her once bright eyes turned red. Her mother noticed. "Amarachi, you are changing," she said one evening, touching her daughter's cheek. "You don't eat, you don't talk. Are you sick?" Amarachi forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mama." But she was not fine. She was breaking. One afternoon in school, during mathematics class, the phone betrayed her openly. The teacher was explaining a difficult formula when suddenly Amarachi's back vibrated loudly. She froze, but the phone slipped out on its own and lit up on her desk. The entire class turned. On the screen, words flashed. "Amarachi is thinking of cheating in the exam. She plans to copy from Gozie's paper." A loud gasp filled the room. The teacher frowned. "Amarachi. Is that true?" She stammered, "No, sir. I didn't." But the phone spoke again, Siri's voice loud and clear. She was planning it. She even thought about writing answers on her palm. Laughter erupted from the students. The teacher shook his head in disappointment. Amarachi's face burned with shame. She grabbed the phone, stuffed it into her bag, and ran out of the classroom. Tears stung her eyes as the laughter followed her down the corridor. She had wanted respect. She had wanted to belong. But now, she was the biggest joke in school. That night, Amarachi locked herself in her room. She held the phone in her hands, her tears dripping onto the screen. "Why are you doing this to me?" she cried. "Why can't you just be normal?" The voice of her grandmother answered softly. "Because truth cannot be hidden, Oninai. You wanted the shine of the world, but you forgot the light of your soul." Amarachi shook her head violently. "No. I only wanted to belong. I only wanted them to respect me." The phone laughed, a cruel, endless laugh that echoed in her skull. The screen flickered, and suddenly, she saw visions. She saw herself walking through the school corridors while everyone pointed and laughed. She saw her father leaving their home forever, her mother weeping. She saw herself standing in the market, shouting madly at invisible voices while children mocked her. Amarachi dropped the phone in horror. "No. That will never be me." But deep inside, she feared it already was. At dawn, when the cock crowed, the phone glowed again. This time, its voice was calm, almost gentle. "You don't have to suffer, Oninai. I can give you everything. Popularity. Wealth. Friends who will never betray you. Boys who will worship you. Teachers who will favor you." Amarachi's lips quivered. The promises sounded sweet, too sweet. "All you have to do," the voice continued, "is never let me go. Keep me close. Obey me. Trust me. And I will make you shine forever." For a moment, she was tempted. She thought of the laughter of her classmates, the shame of being called village girl. She thought of all the times she had been invisible. Wouldn't it be easier to just keep the phone? To let it guide her? But then she remembered the sleepless nights. The tears. The voices. The secrets she wished she had never heard. She looked at her reflection in the cracked mirror on her wall. She hardly recognized herself. Her eyes were sunken, her lips dry, her face pale. Whispering to herself, she said, "This is not who I am. This is not who I want to be." With trembling hands, Amarachi wrapped the phone in a scarf and hid it under her clothes. She crept out of the house before sunrise, walking quickly down the dusty road. The morning air was cold, the sky faintly pink. She did not stop until she reached the river at the edge of town. The water was calm, rippling gently under the rising sun. She stood at the bank, clutching the phone tightly. The voice spoke again, this time desperate. "Don't do it, Oninai. Without me, you are nothing. With me, you can have everything." Amarachi's hands shook. Tears streamed down her face. "I don't want everything," she screamed. "I just want peace." The voice grew harsher. "If you throw me away, you will regret it forever. You will be mocked again, forgotten again. You will never belong." Amarachi squeezed her eyes shut, her heart pounding. She thought of her mother's tears, of her grandmother's warnings, of the nights she had wept alone. With a sudden cry, she raised the phone high above her head and hurled it into the river. It hit the water with a loud splash, sending ripples across the surface. For a moment, the screen glowed beneath the water, flickering like a dying star. Then it sank, swallowed by the river's depths. Silence. For the first time in months, Amarachi felt stillness inside her. The voices were gone. The whispers were gone. The chains around her heart had broken. She fell to her knees at the riverbank, sobbing with relief. When she returned home, her mother was waiting. "Amarachi," she said, her voice soft but firm, "what is happening to you? Tell me the truth." Amarachi broke down. She confessed everything, the stolen money, the cheap iPhone, the whispers, the secrets, the torment. Her mother listened, her eyes filled with tears. When Amarachi finished, she pulled her daughter into her arms. "You made a mistake," she said, "but you are still my child. What matters is that you have turned back." Amarachi wept into her mother's shoulder, feeling lighter than she had in months. From that day, she changed. She no longer envied her classmates. She no longer dreamed of belonging through material things. She focused on her studies, helped her mother in the market, and slowly rebuilt her peace of mind. Her classmates mocked her again for losing her iPhone. Some even laughed that she had been scammed. But Amarachi only smiled. She knew the truth, nothing in the world was worth her peace. Moral lessons. Greed and envy blind the heart. Amarachi's desire to belong made her steal, and it nearly destroyed her. Not everything cheap is a blessing. Some gifts are traps in disguise. True belonging comes from within. Respect is built on character, not possessions. A guilty conscience is heavier than chains. Only truth and repentance bring freedom. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section and lessons learned. If you want to keep seeing stories like this, support the channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing.